let's talk about 100 million people. You have probably heard about the war in Ukraine,
We're standing here directly at the border between Ukraine and Moldova.
conflict in Yemen, attacks in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo,
Sasa tu ingali napika. Ilikuwa kukimbia.
crisis in Syria, Afghanistan, and Ethiopia.
Many Afghans are extremely anxious about what the future holds.
You may have also heard about violence, persecution, and insecurity in other parts of the world, like South Sudan, Myanmar, and Africa's Sahel region. The lack of peace and security in these and other countries around the world has forced a staggering 100 million people to flee their homes and take dangerous journeys in search of safety. But have you also heard about all the communities that welcome them? Refugees and displaced people who found new opportunities, who have rebuilt their lives and are even helping others? What about refugees who felt safe enough to go home? My name is Rayan, and I work for UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency. I want to talk to you about forcibly displaced people around the world. But first, 100 million. How did we get here? This is Global Trends. By the end of 2021, before the war in Ukraine, there were already 89 million forcibly displaced people globally. This is twice as many as a decade ago. Many of the crises today have been going on for years, and most people fleeing across borders come from just a few countries like Syria, Venezuela, Afghanistan, South Sudan, and Myanmar. This year, the war in Ukraine has added drastically to these numbers. Since February, over 4.5 million people have fled the country. So where do refugees find safety? Countries around the world open their borders so people forced to flee can seek asylum. Countries like Turkey, Colombia, Uganda, Pakistan, Germany, and Bangladesh host the largest number of refugees globally. This year, there has been an outpouring of generosity for refugees from Ukraine, who have found safety in neighboring countries across Europe and beyond. But people forced to flee do not always cross borders. These are internally displaced people, or in short, IDPs. By the end of 2021, 53 million people around the world had been displaced by conflict in their own countries. Some of the largest IDP populations are in Syria, Colombia, DRC, Yemen, Ethiopia, Afghanistan, and Burkina Faso. This year, in just 4 months, 7 million people were displaced by war inside Ukraine. People like Milana.
Для кого это? Для кого это ты нарисовала?
Два папы. Но мы за ними скучаем.
In Afghanistan, a humanitarian crisis is affecting the whole country, including internally displaced families. They face enormous challenges, including economic collapse and widespread hunger. The winter season was especially difficult. In Ethiopia, conflict in the north displaced millions of people internally. Mebret, a social worker who was also displaced, decided to help others.
They need this food, they need this shelter, they need this clothes. My work is to protect people.
Even as the number of displaced people continues to rise around the world, solidarity and the commitment to find solutions is growing. And refugees, displaced and stateless people, despite everything, remain hopeful.
Cuando uno tiene deseos, ganas, voluntad, optimismo, creo que no hay obstáculo que pueda pararlo.
In 2021, hope turned into action. People around the world rallied together to support refugee athletes at the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics, proving just how transformative sport and inclusion is for displaced communities.
A lot of the refugees, they get undermined and feel ashamed, you know. You don't have to feel that shame.
Refugees and displaced people also took action in fighting the effects of climate change. They increasingly find themselves on the front lines of this growing global emergency.
গত বছর দাসে 4 বার পানি উঠিল ফ্ল্যাশ ফ্লাড হইল এবছর দাসে 3-4 বার কি ফ্ল্যাশ ফ্লাড হইল আর আজ দূর ফারি দূর তো আর কি করি চেষ্টা করি আর কমিউনিটিরে বাঁচাই বলে চেষ্টা করি
For those forcibly displaced, the most fulfilling action can be going home. In 2021, about 5.7 million people voluntarily returned to rebuild their lives and their communities. One sign that peace is a powerful solution. Behind all these numbers are stories of people who have lost so much, but also resilience and compassion. 100 million is not just a number. It is families, friends, and loved ones. It is a devastating milestone. But it is not a refugee crisis. It's a political crisis. It's a failure of humanity to prioritize peace and stability. But it is also a challenge to everyone. What can you do to help people forced to flee? Find out how you can volunteer to help displaced people near you. Donate. Help raise funds for displaced people around the world. Subscribe to our channel to stay informed. Encourage your leaders to do more for displaced people and boost support for the countries and communities that host them. And most of all, advocate for more lasting solutions to displacement and make peace a priority.